17 after 9 o'clock. Welcome back, and also a very big welcome to our Polokwane listeners on One Nation FM. I hope you're going to enjoy the second hour of news and views right here in Salam Media. We're now going to be looking at a story regarding the coalition filing court papers to set aside Nersa's Eskom tariff approval. We're joined by NUMSA spokesperson Phakamile Hlubi Majola. And of course, this is big news, is it not? A very good morning to you, Phakamile Hlubi Majola. Love the color of your hair. Love the new look. Welcome.
Good morning, and good morning to your viewers. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for having me on your show.
Lovely to have you here. Now, the three parties involved here, obviously, is the UDM, NUMSA, that is yourself, obviously, and Build One SA, the movement, which is BOSSA. They're demanding that government exempts all hospitals and schools from power cuts. And we know, obviously, as Eskom is currently alternating between the most ridiculous of stages. But be that as it may, do you think that anything can come out of this? The Eskom could argue we just don't have the capacity.
Well, it's very important for us to take Eskom to court, because Eskom, in our view, particularly if you look at the utterances of the president, Eskom management, we don't believe them. We don't believe them. We think if they have to go to court and produce evidence for what they're saying, then perhaps we can take them seriously. They can claim that they don't have capacity.
Phakamile, can I just interrupt? Sorry. There are two issues here that we are raising, is the issue around capacity and the issue that you guys are taking up very strongly, and that is to set aside that tariff that has been approved by Nersa, because that's going to set all of us back. Where on earth are we going to come up with 19% extra when the majority of the country are out of work?
That's true. Can you hear me? I hope you can hear me
loud
clearly.
And clear. Loud and clear.
Okay. So you're absolutely right. There are various things that we are tackling here. The one is the fact that we simply cannot afford an 18.65% increase, particularly when we're not getting energy. I mean, so how are we justifying this increase? But also, more importantly, is this issue of load shedding and the devastating impact that it is having on the economy. It is NUMSA's perspective that if we were being led by a government, which is also the shareholder of Eskom, together with a board and an executive management of Eskom, which was actually genuinely interested in resolving this, we would have resolved it by now. Eskom's own financial statements say that the key to ending load shedding is that they've got to do proper maintenance on the existing fleet of Eskom power stations. Now, it is our view that maintenance is not being done, certainly not in the way that it is supposed to have been done, which is why we find ourselves here. And what we keep being told is that Eskom needs more capacity so that they can add more renewables. That is a lie. Renewable energy cannot power industry. It cannot power an economy. And if you look at what's happening in Germany, for example, Germany has over 120,000 megawatts of installed renewable energy. And yet they have still gone back to coal because of the power supply crisis. And the question we're asking ourselves, and we're asking it even in the court papers as NUMSA, is that we are going through serious power shortages. Why is this government prematurely closing down power stations when we desperately need power now? And it seems to us it is because they are private interests that are being accommodated here at our expense. And this is why we're going to court. We're going to court not only to stop load shedding in those sectors which are critical to the economy, such as healthcare and public education, but more importantly, we're going to court because we want government to disclose the nature of this agreement that it has signed with the US government, where they've promised us over $8 billion in loans to shift away from coal, when the rest of the world is busy exporting South African coal as we speak.
Phakamile, do you think that they are not Are they going to come clean with you? You're going to court, you and two other movements, that is obviously the UDM and BOSA. And I know that other civil society groups are also, and NGOs are also begin to agitate against Eskom. And I think if nothing is addressed sooner rather than later, we're going to have a groundswell of such dissatisfaction, of such high proportions, that it's going to lead the country into very, very serious problems.
Well, I think this is an unfortunate consequence of poor governance under the ANC. I mean, as I speak to you, today is the 25th of January 2023. On the 26th of January 2018, President Cyril Ramaphosa was addressing delegates at the World Economic Forum. And at that time, there was a whole debate around nuclear. I'm sure you remember that, Julie. And they were asked, the president was asked at the World Economic Forum, is South Africa going to sort of consolidate or shore up its power by venturing into nuclear? And the president at that time said, we have excess power. Why would we spend R1 trillion on nuclear when we have excess power? We had excess power in 2018, Julie. Now it's 2023, and we can't even keep the power on for 24 hours. That tells you that under the leadership of this ANC government, which is the shareholder of Eskom, decisions have been taken to reduce the capacity of the state-owned entity to the extent where we can't even provide energy. And the question we have to ask is, how did we get here? NUMSA is of the view that we got here because of capitalist interests and people who are close to the leadership of the ruling party who are benefiting from load shedding. There are people who are benefiting through diesel contracts from load shedding. There are people who are benefiting through renewable energy independent power producer contracts, such as the president's brother-in-law, from all of these discussions and debates about renewable energy. We need to, first of all, look at what are the principles of a just transition. We keep being told that this is part of a just transition. NUMSA can tell you outright that what we're going through right now is not a just transition. The South African government has perverted the concept of what a just transition is for the benefit of business and private interests. If we are to move from a dependence of fossil fuels to renewable energy, that transition must happen at a pace that the country can afford. Can we afford rolling blackouts because we are closing down power stations prematurely? No, we cannot afford that. We are not a developed country. And secondly, South Africa is not responsible for climate change. Africa as a continent only contributes less than 4% of the carbon which is responsible for climate change. Countries like Germany, UK, China, America, those are the ones who are responsible for all of the carbon in the world that has resulted in climate change. They should be the ones to transition, and they should lead. But we should not be rushed into a process that is going to result in multiple load shedding, that is going to result in job losses because of the premature closure of power stations. We should make sure that we take care of our needs, our energy needs as a country, so that we can guarantee jobs, power up the economy, and deal with the extremely high levels of poverty, unemployment, and inequality.
Okay, Phakamile, one or two more questions before I let you go. I do know that you can't spend too much time with me on the show this morning. The all-important question is that 18.5% increase that has been granted by Nersa. How on earth have they even applied their minds to a situation like this, knowing that these rolling blackouts has impacted on small and medium businesses big time? There's people that we know what the unemployment situation is like in the country, and this is just further exacerbating that situation. So they've gone ahead. If they don't hear you with your court application, what's the next move by these three entities, yourself, which is NUMSA, BOSA, and UDM? What's the next step going forward?
This is an action which is being undertaken by several organizations. Really, it's very broad. It involves NUMSA, BOSA, UDM. It also involves the Health Workers Trade Union, Haitu, who have also, in fact, made very, very strong submissions in terms of the impact of load shedding on patients and the fact that thousands of patients in this country are dying every day because of what load shedding is doing in our hospitals. So, I mean, we've reached a very abnormal situation in our country where we've justified the abnormal, where we've justified the death of patients because we keep being told that this is a necessary process as we transition. We feel it is important to hold these people before a court of law because we cannot believe anything that government has been telling us. We, as a recognized union at Eskom, most of the things that we're raising in our court papers, we've actually raised in meetings directly with Eskom management, and they've not explained or accounted for how we got here. So it's very important that organizations, progressive organizations like NUMSA, like Haitu, UDM, BOSA, and others, we must reach across our banners. SAFT is also part of this campaign. We really have to, put our banners aside and think about what are we trying to do here. We're trying to literally save the economy, which is something that is in all our interests. So besides the court action, we are very, very grateful for the fact that members of the public are mobilizing themselves. I mean, almost every day you're hearing about pickets and marches that are being organized to protest against load shedding. We've got to do this because we are currently being run by a very corrupt ANC government who have long ago given up driving in the interests of the majority of people. The only way we're going to force them to listen to us and to do the right thing is to go to court, is to embark on protest action and rolling mass action, and remind them that the real power is in the hands of the working class. And so for us, this is the beginning of this, solidarity and really trying to raise the consciousness of the working class so that we can unite around a common issue. The common issue right now is that our survival as a nation is at stake. We are our national endowment, our natural endowment, which is coal, is being sold off to the highest bidder for the benefit of Western Europe. It's a new form of colonialism that's happening at the moment, where African countries are being told to stop utilizing their own natural endowments, whilst the rest of Western Europe, by the way, continue to utilize fossil fuels. But we should subject ourselves to a technology that, frankly, is not good enough for powering up our economies. We've got to reject this. We have a right as a nation to have sovereignty, to determine for ourselves what kind of energy mix would work for us to drive our economic objectives.
Finally, I do know that you have to go. You can give me a short, sharp answer to this. We know that over time, Eskom has been they have been justifying their position by suggesting that they have a situation of aging infrastructure. They have a situation of a wholesale sabotage at all of their plants. There's corruption amongst, from the top right down to the bottom at Eskom. They're talking about second grade coal and a whole host of issues. You've heard those stories. You've heard how they've justified this, and they'll come up with the very same justification. How are you going to actually push back on that issue? Because if you don't know, if we as a public accept what they're saying and we don't know better, we're just going to continue accepting and going ahead. And different people are taking the fall. Different people are taking the fall for the incompetencies in government and in Eskom.
This is why it was important for NUMSA to get involved in this court case. We believe that we can counter some of the propaganda that they've been feeding the public with at the moment. This issue of persistent sabotage, as far as we're concerned, is absolute nonsense. If you recall, in 2019, President Ramaphosa came back from a trip I think it was the first time we had stage 6 load shedding, and he claimed some person did something and it was sabotage. Do you remember that case was dropped by the Hawks for lack of evidence? And there's many examples, even during the Eskom wage talks, workers again were blamed for sabotage. The bottom line is that this Eskom board, together with the help of Pravin Gordhan, the Minister of Public Enterprises, and this corrupt ANC government, deliberately have taken a decision not to maintain state-owned entities. And that is because they've accepted the narrative from international financial institutions to privatize our state-owned entities. So as long as we have load shedding, it justifies the involvement of the private sector in energy generation. We've got to stop them. Once the private sector starts to control energy generation in this country, whatever you think you're paying for Eskom, if you think it's expensive now, just wait. Just wait until the private sector is fully in control, and then you will wish Eskom was up and running. And this is precisely the point. I mean, as I was saying to you, Julie, 2018, we had excess energy. Now we are desperate for anybody to give us any solution at any cost. That is exactly what the ANC government has done. They collapsed this entity so that the private sector can get involved. We will suffer in the long term. The only way we think we can get them to tell the truth is before a court, where they will be forced to actually back up all of their assertions with evidence.
Absolutely. They've brought the country to its knees. We look forward to this court action. We'll be following it very closely, and undoubtedly we'll be talking with you some more in the near future. Go well. Phakamile Hlubi Majola from NUMSA. Always a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
And you. It is exactly 9:34. Before we go for our ad break, I need to read out something very important. And then I also understand that Professor Kidebone is standing by to talk with us in a minute or two. So as we speak, we do know that today the DA have put out a statement, a press release, and they say today we all stand in one voice against the ANC engineered load shedding crisis. From 9:30 this morning, thousands of citizens will gather at the Mary Fitzgerald Square in Johannesburg for the hashtag Power to the People March. And of course, take action now also at toknowincreases.coza. Stop them before it's too late. Power to the People March today. Enough load shedding, enough cadre deployment, enough corruption, enough price hikes. Join the march. Take up your power. Say no to the ANC. Today, at the Mary Fitzgerald Square, downtown Johannesburg, at 9:30 exactly. And as I speak, it is happening. Please do make your way there. It is exactly 9:36 a.m. One other readout. And at Lord of the Media is saying at hashtag DA March ANCL members heading towards the party's headquarters to defend the organization against the DA's electricity march to Luthuli House. Can you believe that? The cheek of it all, the ANCL members are heading towards the party's headquarters. They're going to defend, I ask you, can you believe it? Going to defend the organization against the DA's electricity march. Oh boy, are we in trouble? Are we in trouble if this is what the ANC is all about? It is exactly 9:37 a.m. News and Views on Solar Media.